I'll teach you everything you need to know about events in 5 minutes. Events are a way of executing code when a certain event is triggered. Similar to how properties and methods are attached to an object, events also are attached to objects. I'll show you some of the more common ones. We'll just name this part, make it into a cube. The touched event is only for parts and it just detects when the part has been touched. It isn't the most accurate thing ever, but for learning purposes, it's okay. The syntax for an event is the object workspace.part. I hope you notice that trend that you always go to the object that you want to access. With properties, we did that. With methods, we did that. And then you write a dot, just as you would if you wanted to use a property. But if you notice these lightning bolt symbols, they're for events. We're going to use the touched one. And then you write colon connect, just because we have to. And then you write the function that you want to happen. Inside the parenthesis, it takes in a function of what it is that you want to happen. Let's just make a function that we want to happen whenever the part is touched. Remember how you make a function? Local function. And a common way of making functions for events is, since we're using the touched event, just name this function on touched parenthesis. And now we print the part was touched. And now we can pass on this function, and whatever we write inside of here is going to happen when the part is touched. So to recap, all events follow the same structure. You write the object, the event you want to happen after a period, colon, capital C connect, followed by parentheses, and inside those parentheses, you write the function that you want to occur when that event is triggered. And I'll just show you what that looks like. I'll put this part up in the air, and when it touches the base plate, it should trigger the touched event, and it'll cause it to print. You see? And it bounced a little bit, so it fired multiple times. Whenever the part is touched by anything at all, it's going to be triggered, thus triggering this function. The touched event returns an argument for us that tells us what was touched, and we can access this by writing a variable in the function's parentheses. Normally for the touched event, people write hit because the touched event tells us what hit that object. And I'll show you, if I write hit.name, it's going to print out the name of whatever hit our little part here. You see? Base plate. So that event tells the function, hey, this is what hit the part, and we can access it by making the parameter hit, and then we print out hit.name to get the name of whatever hit it. I'll show you with my character too. Even if it's my character's right foot, left lower leg, whatever it is, I'm walking around on it, I'm touching it, it's gonna be whatever part touches that part. Another commonly used event is the player added event. This is an event for the player service. Yeah, services can have events too. So I told you it's for the players, so we access the object first. In this case, it's a service. So game.players, and I told you it was called a player added. And then I told you the connect, capital C, and then we have to write a function, but we don't have to use a pre-existing function. We can use what's known as an anonymous function. And we do this by just writing function in here and an opening parentheses, but not the closing one, because the closing one is going to go at the end. Now, whatever we write from here to the end is going to happen whenever this is triggered. So whenever a player joins is when this is triggered. So whenever a player joins, we can print player has joined. See, player has joined. And similarly to how the touched event passes on the object that hit it, the player added event passes on the player. So we can name it player, but again, you can name it whatever you want. Player is just a commonly used thing. And now we can actually print out the player's name. You can print out some of the other properties, you can use methods on it or whatever, but this is just a tutorial. I only have a few minutes, okay? I'm just showing you like printing a lot. Be creative from there, okay? See, I printed out, I have eyes of faith. This function looks scary compared to other ones, but for events like this, I like to use this function, the anonymous function. It just organizes things better, I feel like, for me. If you have multiple arguments, argument B, argument C, it's just a regular function. It's just built a different way and it doesn't have a name. So if you want a function that you can use more than once, don't do it like this. But if you have a function that you only want to use in this event, then you can use this method if you'd like to. And you can also nest stuff. We've already nested several things before, but you can nest an event inside of another event, which is pretty cool because the player just so happens to have a really neat event called chatted, which fires every time the player writes a message. And then we write function, remember the opening parenthesis, not the closing one, and then print player has chatted. So if we write anything here before this event, this is triggered when the player joins, remember? Joined. And then if we write anything in here, this is when the player has chatted. Yes, they did. So now we can test this out. You see it prints joined when I joined, and then when I typed hi, player has chatted, and yes, they did.